Morning. Looks like it's the quality group today. And I'm wearing socks because I was thinking of feet, and one of my teachers, a guy named Polly Zink, who used to practice on a wooden floor with his socks on, and particularly socks that were slippery. So the reason why he did this was part of the work, or the reason for practicing balancing, and that is, as you walk around during your normal day or even in your yoga practice, most people tend to move with the idea that the feet are just plunked downward like posts, and then the rest of the body has to follow. But actually, when you're walking, if you just take a step forward, for the next leg to come to join it requires a whole set of operations, a contraction of the hamstring muscle in the back of the forward leg, dragging the back foot forward, the engagement of the psoas muscle in the back leg to come and join, to lift up from the back and to join. And so what this guy would do, if you're just jumping in, I was talking about one of my crazy yoga teachers who used to practice with his socks on a slippery wooden floor, is to literally skate around into the yoga poses and slip and slide. And because the socks would tend to slip the feet apart, if you do a full split, you had to then have the contraction back into the core. I see everybody's now jumping on, so I'll just cover that again. I've got my socks on this morning, not because I'm cold, but because I was explaining one of my yoga teachers used to practice on a wooden floor with socks, which are slippery, so you could move from, say, a warrior one to a warrior one easily, or any yoga pose, kind of slip back, turn forward, slip the knees. And we're going to be doing some of this work today, how to get in and out, front to back. And so we're going to be moving on the feet. And to do that, we have to have pretty strong adductors. So the inner legs need to be able to pull together to scoop. And you can practice this with or without socks as you're watching. Just sliding one leg back and then bringing like a skater, the back leg to the front. And just try to feel the contraction of the hamstring in the front leg and the engagement of the psoas in the back leg. So that's what we're going to be doing, is to entertain and move in a little bit more lively fashion, but also controlled, trying to understand that as you move into your standing yoga poses from the front of the mat to the back of the mat to the side of the mat, that to do so without falling over or getting out of structure requires a lot of integration between the feet and the hips and the muscles in between. So let's actually start in a low lunge, and you can manage this with your hands on your right knee, which is forward, your left knee, which is back. Take any padding under the back knee you need. Now, I saw a PT and a trainer at a gym do the same exercise the other day and point out that most people, when they're doing low lunge, are going to just try to drop down as deep with the hips as they can, because they can, and they think that most of the postures to stretch this psoas or hip flexor in the left leg. But think about, or experiment now as you listen to me, what it takes to pull back to more vertical position. And you can do that a few times. Inhale forward, exhale back. And so the legs are in a very small way as we warm up, operating a bit like scissors. in that they open from one another and they close, so that the adductors and the hip flexors and the hamstring in the front, right under this leg here, if you take your hands under your right hamstring and relax the hamstring, give it a pat. Now, if you bind your hands underneath it and go ahead and contract it. If you want extra credit, lift your right heel off the ground as you do this. Contract the calf muscle, the hamstring muscle, and then put the heel down without losing this contraction. So now we've got engagement of the dynamic engagement of the hip flexor and the back leg. We've got a little engagement of the front leg, and we can replace the hands and breathe. Take a little twist of your gaze and torso to the right. This is strong work for the legs. And let's just switch legs. And notice that I did that without getting on my hands because of the muscles in the legs that can develop. Which is going to be one of our exercises for those that wish to take the challenge. But here's the left foot forward, and I know Lee's on board today, and she's been telling me about some of her PT work and etc. I have a left hip and leg which is typically weaker than the right. So what does that mean? I have to work a little bit more here. And as I sink, again, the beginner mistake is that the stretch is going to be done way down in here. So make that mistake and then pull out of it and feel as you go forward on inhale and back on exhale with a big or small movement of your body, what the legs and the muscles around the legs and the hips and the feet are doing to help you from falling over. And absolutely, if you need a chair or wall, take it. So even if I were to sit here and pendulate my body, inhale forward and back, and really start to engage the muscles, I get a workout. But let's go ahead and check in with that left hamstring and bind the hands if you can underneath that extra challenge, lift the left heel off the ground. Now I'm really firing underneath this left upper leg right back to the outer glute here. So the medial glute. And then put the heel down, put the hands back on the front knee, and just do a little rotation of the chest, which I'm already doing, to you, to the left front corner of the mat. But feel the legs really hugging into the midline and keeping you structured. So if you were to switch legs again, take a peek. If you can, you're doing this without your hands. So that one of the challenges for the advanced folks is to be able to do this. Shift the weight to one knee, and then lift up and step forward. So I'm going for a little bit of a walk, and I'm showing off, but all for the purpose of showing you that the legs and the muscles around the legs are really important as we get up to standing eventually. Okay, so let's sit back down on our heels now into virasana. You can sit on a block if you want. Just take your hands to your hips, and you can tilt the hips back, putting an arch in your low back. Inhale and exhale. Just roll and flatten the back. And do that a little bit. And so, of course, this is always part of the puzzle, getting that deep core engagement, which is commonly referenced by yoga teachers as the cue, imperfect though it is, tuck your tailbone. But it's more of an engagement between the belly button and the muscles around the tailbone area, the pelvic floor, the inner legs. So just try to find a good structure here. and stitch the fingers together and launch your Baddha Hastasana, pressing your palms to the sky, and breathe. And dig your toes into the mat, the tops of the toes, dig them down. Take a little bit of a lean to the left, and see how those digging toes help you stay gripped. Inhale to center and take a little lean to the right. And then let's come to child's pose, so you can slide your hands forward, drop your head, drop your hips. Your low back is in its morning grumpy aspect. You can put your forearms down, put a block under your head, and allow that low back to just get a little bit of a stretch. In flexion. And come up halfway or all the way to Virasana. Take a peek. I'm going to karate chop my arms, pinky finger down like this. Come up with the hips a little bit. And I'm extending the arms as far as I can. And then exhale, I dive down. I'm going to push my pinky fingers and arms down into the mat. I'm going to sit my hips down. Take 3 or 4 breaths here. So I'm including this little exercise partly for Lee and partly for everybody, that it's an honest way to start to unwind some of the muscles you need to stretch to be able to honestly lift the chest toward the chin, while at the same time the low back is not arched in a big arch. It's in flexion. Come up halfway, you can karate chop over to the left. We've done this before with the palms down. You're going to feel a pretty big stretch, most of you, under that right armpit area. And again, what are the toes doing? Can they dig in, tops of the toes? And then we're going to walk through center and karate chop parallel arms to the right, pushing down with the arms, keeping the chest buoyant and lifted, even as the hips drop. Come back to center and take another child's pose. Now let's come up to hands and knees and do a little cat and cow with the toes tucked under. So look at your fingers, spread your fingers. Inhale, look forward, and then exhale, look down. Just start to move the tailbone, the hips, shoulders. And again, the toes are tucked under, so we're gonna eventually make our way to down dog, and we can pedal out the feet. Drop your head, look at your feet. Bending elbows, bending knees, and just walking out your dog. And take a look at the inner and outer edges of the feet, the toes. One heel can go down, the other heel can lift. And you're going to walk your hands slowly, progressively, back toward your feet to come into forward fold at the back of your mat. Bend your knees a lot. You can hold opposite elbows or let your arms dangle. And then see if you can lift your heels and come down and balance. So you may need a couple of yoga blocks, or you may need to grab a chair and see what I'm doing. I'm going to give you the side view. And this is a pretty deep stretch for the fascia on the back of the sole of the foot. So I'm lifting my heels, I'm engaging my core muscles, And I've got my fingertips down on the ground. I'm feeling my toe mound, big toe mound, pressing. I'm feeling my pinky toe mound, pressing. I'm going to try to balance right here, just to show you what's possible. And those arches of the feet that I've been talking about, those toe mounds I've been talking about, this is just a little challenge du jour. And for some people, it's fairly extreme and uncomfortable. So you can then take a forward fold now and see what that may have done to awaken your feet. And if you want to try it again, I'm going to come down, my fingertips on the ground, or you could use yoga blocks, you could have a chair, you could be near a wall like this, and if you want it to be. And you can also do this, if you're brave, with the Baddha Konasana. So that now the heels come together, I'm just showing these extreme games, poses for a point. They're done to awaken the feet. Some people put the hands inside the knees. Again, heels lifted, maybe connecting. This is a very, very old representation in Indian culture. They're actually not even sure it's Indian culture. They call it Harappan culture. And then forward fold. So you can try that a few times, or you can, from your forward fold, bend your knees, head is last, come up to standing. We'll try a little bit standing with this. So that figure of Pashupati, you'll see if you go on your Google, it has horns coming out of his or her head. I think it's non-gendered. They first thought it was male, of course, because they assign everything to male. And then they thought, well, wait, this might be a woman giving birth, right? Giving birth, squatting down. This might be a fertility goddess, so they changed their tune on that. But you'll see this in Indian dance a lot. So if you really want to challenge this weekend, you can work on this posture, and you can even come up and down in this posture. And that should make you good and tired. But if not, here's the way to go at it. You can take the chair, or you can take your hands to the wall. We've done it before. We're just going to lift our heels up and then place them down as we bring our hands to the wall. If you've got a chair, you just work on the back of the chair. And all you do is lift up onto those big toe and pinky toe mounds, and then you come down. And all you're doing is strengthening your feet. And of course, my right side is dominant, so I can feel right away how much stronger the right foot is than the left. And then when the heels come down, the next time, whether your hands are on a chair or against the wall, you're going to bend your knees and take your chair pose. See if you can bring your knees to touch and squeeze the knees together and knit or contract between the belly button and the tailbone to get that core aspect again, so that your low back isn't going to go into a big arch like this and your butt kick out to lift your chest, okay? So again, squeezing the knees. Okay, let's just do that one more time, just for fun, just to wake up our feet. And we'll take the hands to the top of the chair or the wall, lifting up and coming down. Simple stuff. If you didn't have a chair or wall, or if you're super yogini, you can just do this as we've done in the past without. So working in the feet, but I'm also, if I were to put my hands on my abdomen here, I'm working on core tone so that I don't, again, overarch the low back to make this lift of the arches of the feet. It's a fairly controlled motion. And then one more time, wherever you are, on the wall or on the chair. And then you're going to sink down to your chair pose. If you can, bring your knees together, press, and just contract down here in your power pack of your belly button to your pelvic floor area. Take a peek at your toes. You should be able to see them past your knees. And then go ahead and come up. Separate the feet. Once again, forward fold. Bring the feet together and bend the knees. Come up through chair pose, clamping the knees right away. And if you're not great at chair pose, the fail-safe or the great thing to do is like we did in low lunge, being in class, and we did this on Wednesday, I think, kind of the jitterbug. We press our hands down to our knees and then come up. And by doing this, you can try it a few times if you're in the mood. Pressing the straight arms down keeps the chest lifted, but keeps the core knit together. So now as we stand in the front of the mat, take Tadasana. Hopefully the feet are awakened, the legs are a little bit awakened, and we can start to move a little bit. So our basic movement is to keep the legs toned and bring the arms up to the sky and bring the arms back down. And just start to do your pranayama in the structure of this Tadasana. Take a peek at your feet. Toe mounds are well placed, particularly the big toe mound as you inhale, presses. The transverse abdominals tone as the arms come up. Then as the arms come down, press the heels into the ground and tone the backs of the legs. So let's add that component to the process. Inhale, reaching up, pressing the big toe mounds down, contracting the transverse abdominals. Exhale as the arms come down, press the heels to earth. If you want extra credit, you lift your heels up as your arms come up. And as you come down, your heels go down. So this is always happening a little bit, even if you're not actually lifting your heels up. If everyone keeps the heels down and just lifts the arms up, but imagine the engagement at the bottom of the arch, through the knee, through the hips, and then coming down. Let's take a chair pose with the hands on the knees, jitterbug fashion. Press palms on knees, drop your tailbone, lift your chest. Squeeze your knees. So here you're like a ski racer down, shooshing on the slopes. And then forward fold and separate your feet. Bring the feet together. If you can, clamp the knees, bend the knees, hands to knees, sink the hips, and then stand. So let's take the hands to the hips now, and we're going to just do a little walking as we did a few days ago. And this time you're going to inhale, just using we're working on the feet. Inhale, you're going to take the elevator down to chair pose. And then you're going to shift the weight to the right foot, step the left heel back, warrior one legs. And then inhale, step the feet together, left foot to right, exhale, stand. And again, this is a review. Inhale, descend, clamp, find your core muscles, easy to lose. Can you keep those core muscles from the belly button to the tailbone engaged as you shift the weight to the left foot, step back with the right, and then Step the feet together and stand. So I'm just going to do this. You can follow. And what is this? This is requiring some of the same muscles I started class with when I talked about the guy with his socks who practices on the bare floor. Now I have to actively, as I take the back foot forward, to join the front foot again, to retract, I have to actively contract the muscles in the front leg here. So let's break it down. Come to standing, follow me through. Hands to hips so you can mitigate any arching posterior or anterior of the hips that may affect the low back. Inhale, sink down. Clamp the knees, find your core. Shift the weight to the right foot. Step back with left and the heel drops. Now when I come forward out of this pose, I got to contract right underneath this right leg. So I can even take my right hand there and feel that hamstring like I did earlier. And there it is. And I stand. Inhale, Utkatasana chair. Find your core, either by knitting your knees together, feeling that belly button to tailbone contraction. Shift the weight over to the ball mound and heel the left foot. Slide or step back with the right. Now I got to contract the underside of this front leg as I inhale and drag your step right foot to left. You get the picture, so you don't have to step back that much. And you can look down at the ground if you're somebody that's wobbly. You could even, if you were super wobbly, be working on a chair like this. This is really basic. Now, what I want you to avoid, if you stop for a second, is what you see most yoga students do, and that is you're going to be kind of coming up and down and up and down. And this is what I mentioned at the beginning of class, where people think of their legs and their feet like posts. I post, I lift and post. Instead, I'm keeping the hips low. And this requires that I'm working where my hands are in the legs, in the connecting point of the legs. So this is sneaky core work. And if you can't feel it, give me a call after class. Let's take a forward fold. And let's take a downward dog from there. Walk the feet back. Engage the legs in the same manner we've been doing. And lengthen the arms. You can bend your knees, you can lift your heels, and you can work the heels up and down. You're going to step your feet to your hands, or jump if you're feeling sprightly. Flap back and fold at your leisure. And then you got it, feet together, at least the big toes, knees together, hands to knees, push down and lift the chest, engage the core, and then stand. This is a lot of core work. It's very sneaky. So let's move on from here. Again, you could be working on a chair if you're, say, somebody in your household was wobbly. Take a look at those feet now. Lift the toes up, spread them, engage the arch, and then place the toes down, nice and fanned out. Feel the big toe mound, pinky toe mound, and the heel as the tripod of the posture. So let's move on, hands to hips. Take a peek or follow. What if I want to come into back and forth in the front to the back of the mat? Vinyasa yoga. I bend down, inhale, step the left foot back, and now I'm going to pivot, straightening the front leg and turning the toes, right toes to the midline. And then I'm going to pivot on the left toes to shift my warrior one to the back of the mat. Then I start to straighten the front leg a little bit, and I pivot on the heel of the back foot, toes to parallel, and then I start to turn on the heel of the front foot, and I'm back to where I started, warrior one. And I step the feet together, come up. So here we go, let's try it together. Inhale, chair pose. Now right foot slides or steps back. Now you're gonna pivot and toe in on the left foot. I'm somewhat pigeon-toed here at this point. And now I'm gonna look over my right shoulder. I'm gonna pivot on the right foot and drop into warrior one, facing the back of the mat. Pigeon toe into the right side of the mat, and then toe out with the left foot, and we're back to where we started. So you get the picture, and I want you to just either take a peek at first and then try this, pigeon toeing, and then toeing forward, bring the feet together, and we switch feet. Toe in, toe out, and with your hands on your hips as you start to do this, you'll start to feel, hopefully, how it's not just the feet. The hips are moving like a headlamp. And try each side, 3 or 4 times. And you're really working in the feet here. Now, I started allowing you to come up and down a little bit. Now I'm going to go back to what I talked about earlier, and try not to be bouncing up a lot and going kerplunk, and then kerplunk, and then kerplunk. But I'm just turning with the hips low. So step back like a cat, pigeon toe in, revolve, pigeon toe in, revolve. And then come back to center. If you have any discomfort in the knees, the back, the hips, modify. Stand a little bit taller so that your poses, your movement in vinyasa may be just more upright like this. But you stay at that plane of travel. Doesn't matter, it could be very light, it could be very fun, and more dignified than dropping way down, rotating, and giving yourself a backache. Let's take a forward fold to make sure that that's not the case. Bend your knees, drop your head. You plant your hands, walk your feet back one at a time to your downward dog. Or get there any way you want and stretch it out. And drop down to your knees. Sit back in virasana. And hands to hips. Again, feel the tilt of the hips. And find a nice position for your low back. Stitch your fingers together. Launch your arms. Stretching the rib cage. Some of you are going to drop your left fingers down and start to side bend to the left. And get the ribs a little more open as we move toward arms. And then binding the fingers. Lean a little bit right. Drop the right fingers or palm down and lean right. And then come back to center. Slide the hands forward. Come to hands and knees. Curl your toes under. Downward dog. And then when you're ready, step or jump the feet to the hands. And fold. Bend your knees, come up through chair. You can place your hands on your knees and push, and then draw your core muscles in, and then standing. So let's include the arms, now that we have the leg movement, basics but not. Drop down into Utkatasana, arms come up, left foot goes back, and as I toe heel in, keeping the arms aloft, I toe heel out to the back of the mat, and all we're going to do is move from warrior one to the front of the mat to the back of the mat. Now, if you need to go back to holding your low back, you can. And you can be as high or low as you want, depending on how you want to challenge yourself. Then you're going to step the feet together and come up and try the other side. I don't know about you, but I'm getting tired. And then Utkatasana with arms aloft, core engaged, knees engaged, right foot slides back. They start to revolve to the right. Pigeon toe in, the left toes. Roll the right toes out, shift the hips. Pigeon toe in, right foot to the side, and toe out, left foot. And you can move in this pattern. And then you can bring your hands to your hips, bring your feet together. Release. Let's move on. So, hands to hips, inhale, sink down to chair, left foot back, plug in, bring the arms up, start to rotate the back foot now to 90 degrees. Let's take our warrior two. So check out your feet. You can put your hands, as I've had you do in the past, straight arms pushing to the inner thighs, and press your hips forward into your hands. So we're going to engage your core muscles. Look at all your toes, if you can. Lift them off the mat. Then launch the arms. Now, if you want extra credit, lift your right heel off the mat. Lift your right heel off the mat. This is for the diehards. Then put the heel down without coming up. Reverse warrior, inhale. Straighten the front leg. Look at the front toes. Can you lift them off the mat? And that's going to engage that front or right arch of the foot, up through the knee, through the hip, and then triangle pose. And place the hand down on the shin or the ground or the block. Now direct your attention, your focus to the back heel. And bring your breath and push into that heel. Keep your right hand at your hip. And bring that awareness of the strength of the back heel and the back hamstring, left hamstring and outer glute. And then I blossom into the pose with the spine lengthening, the crown of the head away from the tailbone. Both arches of the feet, three corners of the feet, in full awareness. If you've extended your left arm, bring it down to your hip, inhale, come up. Hands to hips, we're going to pigeon toe the feet in now. And just like we did in the warrior one, we toe out the left foot to the back of the mat. The only difference now is the back foot in warrior two is more at 90. We place our palms down on our inner thighs and press the sacrum forward. You're going to get a big stretch through the inner legs, but you're going to set your low back well. Arms come up, front leg straightens, inhale. Triangle pose. So look at your front toes. Can you lift them off the mat? And can you dive into the triangle pose now with the right hand on the hip? You can look down at your left toes if you want, or begin to transfer your intelligence and your breath to the back heel and the strength of the The back leg, hamstring of the right leg anchors through the heel, and then I'm set to rotate without falling over. Inhale, come up. Before we come to parallel, come back to warrior two. Those that wanted the challenge, lift that left heel off the ground. And then set it down, come to parallel. Prasarita Padottanasana. All these poses we've done, but not so much with the foot awareness. So again, look at your feet, inner and outer edges are parallel. Take a stance or a width of stance that works for you. Could be wider, could be much narrower. And maybe you're working with your hands on a chair against the wall. Just see here if you can find your big toe mounds pressing into the earth as you inhale. And as you do that, feel the sensation come up through the inner legs into the transverse abdominals. And then take your forward fold, placing your hands down, and let your heels connect to the earth. As you come to a flat back, engage the hamstrings in the back of the legs, from the sitting bones to the heels. Maybe stay here with flat back, just work, or blocks. Those that want to dive in can, but don't lose the toe mound to heel arrangement. Be patient. And then from your flat back, whether you're working with your hands on a chair, not sure Jeannie's here today because everyone jumped in late, or on yoga blocks, we're going to go into a little skandasana. So if you haven't done it before, maybe come up and take a peek. I'm going to walk my hands over to the left, and I'm going to start to bend into the left knee. I walk the hands through center, and then to the right, I bend into the right knee. And I'm working deep in the adductors, the inner legs, giving them a stretch. But to come up and out of this requires a contraction of the same muscle group. Okay, so if you're weak in the inner legs or tight, go gingerly. But if you're not, then some of you can do this no hands. You can cross your hands at your chest. Maybe a couple people in class, and go easy. You can go from one leg to the other, working here. Come back to center and then dive in. Flat back, and then one hand to one hip, the other hand to the other hip, and come up. Toe heel to the front of the mat with the right foot. Step the feet together and release. So let's do the other side. Bring the feet together. Inhale, coming down into Utkatasana, sliding or stepping the right foot back. And then coming to warrior two. Once again, by turning the back foot to 90 degrees. You want the challenge of lifting your front heel off the mat to unleash the arms, you can, and put that heel down. This time, since we've done warrior two and then Trikonasana, let's do our side angle and reverse warrior, keeping the front knee bent, and then launch your side angle pose. The same thing is true with the feet here as we had in Trikonasana. Once you've dove into the pose, find that back heel and use your breath to extend it into the ground. Contract the right hamstring and then grow the spine. Inhale, come up, pigeon toe in, and then pigeon toe out to the back of the mat, warrior two. Again, the challenge du jour for some, lifting the right heel off the mat. Only the toe mound is down. And then warrior two arms, reverse warrior to side angle. And right away, instead of piling weight forward, think of the back heel, the back hamstring here. Inhale, come up, feet parallel. And once again, diving down with the toe mounds pressing on inhale, heels pressing on exhale. Flat back, Skandasana again, hands walk to the right, bend the right knee. Inhale to center, hands walk to the left. Shifting. And you're trying to strengthen around the knee joints, the hip joints, the feet, all communicating as you do this exercise. So all the muscles around the calf, the upper leg, have to be working here. Those that have and more extreme flexibility can drop down into the right hip and lift your left toes. And then as you come through center, you can drop into your left hip and lift your right toes. Then we center, parallel feet, and drop in forward fold. You can hold your ankles. You can take your version of this pose final time. Flat back, inhale. Exhale, one hand to one hip, the other hand to the other hip, and up you come. Toe heel to the front of the mat. Step the feet together and release. So let's start to come down out of this pretty strong work and take a malasana for the low back sake. If it's hard for you to do this, then you can go right onto your back and hug your knees. So in malasana, I already showed you the Pashupati form earlier in class. But this engagement, this lifting of the arches is still in play if I'm in a normal malasana. I have that contraction of the psoas in the inner leg, the arch is active and happy. Let's have a seat wherever you are. Roll up from your back if you are down there and take the Baddha Konasana, sliding our hips toward our soles of our feet that are together. Now everybody can experience that Pashupati form, and you're welcome to sit on a blanket as well. Flexing the toes away from one another, feeling the inner legs get a nice stretch. And if you want to hold your feet or your big toes down, lift your chest and press your sit bones down to press your knees down. Take a few breaths here. A little bit of a repeat from Wednesday. We straddle out to Upavishta Konasana and feel our base, our knees, our feet all interacting. Hands down in front of you. You can start as if you're playing the piano with a lifted chest, engaged core between the belly button and the tailbone. Flex the toes as usual. Spread the toes. So feel the whole boot of the calf muscle right up, protecting the knee. You can fold here to your heart's content without losing the engagement of the legs. Or you can start to take it to one side, taking the hands to either side of the left leg and focusing on that alignment of hip, knee, and foot. And then you can take it over to the right leg. Feeling the sit bone, the knee, the foot. And then if your legs are straightened, lift them as we did, I think, Wednesday, so that you've got this happy baby type of pose sitting down. You see babies, little toddlers, hanging out like this quite a bit. And it's nice core work, actually, subtle core work. See if you can just drape your arms on your knees, engage your core, and hang out here. Or maybe you need to hold your big toes or take a strap to do this. So those with any sort of pain in the back, the knees, I'm going to have you do this on the wall so you can watch in a second. But those that don't, what we did on Wednesday is we took our bent knees and we just turned them over to the left like you're running on the ground. And then we walked our fingertips and torso and rotate it also to the left. Let's keep those toes flexed. Then you came back to center with the knees lifted and dropped the knees over to the right. And the feet look like they're running on the ground. And then I rotate to the right. And you can do that a few times, gingerly. And those that want it deeper, as you go to the right, you can start to drop down onto your head and reach your left arm forward. And when the knees drop to the left, you can reach cross diagonally with the right arm across the head. Now, as mentioned, some of you are happy doing that as we unwind final moments of class, but those that have a little more, need to take a little more care, I want to just briefly show you this fun way to do this against a wall, where I've got the feet on the wall, and I can feel the feet in my happy baby. Now I can drop the knees over to the left and look that way, and I can just drop as I turn the feet to the right and drop that way. And one could do this a little further away from the wall for challenge. One could do this, I've got my hands on my knees in jitterbug fashion, but one could let the arms come out to the side and turn. Here you can feel a tactile sense of the feet rotating, toe healing as we did earlier in class, to essentially what becomes a warrior two pose with the feet against the wall. But I'm moving in the core and the hips. So that can be one to play with. It's very illuminating as we make our way toward Shavasana. And I'm just going to pedal away from the wall, let my legs lay out, be happy. And you can all join me in perhaps placing the palms on the lower belly, where we've done a lot of work in the psoas, the core, giving your muscles there and organ body a chance to release. You can stay in Shavasana as long as you like. Otherwise, bend the knees, give them a little squeeze, and then set the feet down, roll them over to the side, come up seated to close off class. So hopefully that was useful, palms to heart, and I know I've got a bunch of recordings I've got to post. I'll try to get that